I'm Matt Willis, Marin County Public Health Officer with a pandemic update for January 20th, 2023. I'm going to answer a recent question from a community member that I think is probably important for all of us to hear. Here's the question. Marin County Public Health says we're seeing high transmission based on wastewater levels, but CDC has just moved us into the lowest tier for community transmission rates. What is it? I like this question because it's basically asking, are things getting better or getting worse? And how do we know? I'd like to share the things that I look at every day to gauge how we're doing and whether we need to shift our strategies. Currently, the most important and valuable metrics I look at right now are wastewater and hospitalization rates. And here's why. Looking back, through most of the pandemic, case counts have been used to measure our general status. And that made sense because counts meant more transmission, more community risk, which guided policy. But things have changed, and it's harder to use case counts in this way now because of excellent progress and rapid antigen home kits. And the vast majority of cases are actually diagnosed at home and are never reported. It's also possible that more cases are never even tested, especially when symptoms are mild. But everyone who's infected sheds virus into the sewage system when they use the bathroom. Like we say, poop doesn't lie. What this means is that our best view on transmission rates and the number of us who are infected in Marin has shifted from counting cases to looking at virus levels in wastewater. This graphic shows two things. The upper blue line is wastewater levels of the virus that causes COVID-19, and the gray shaded area is daily case counts. I see two important things here. One is the good news that COVID levels seem to be declining in the past few days, but it's really too early to know if this is a real trend. The other is that wastewater levels over time have really been uncoupled from case counts, the lower bars. You can see earlier on the left that case counts and wastewater tracked much more closely than they do now. Fortunately, for Marin, we have wastewater surveillance for almost 90% of everyone who lives in the county. The CDC uses case counts exactly to track community level, as well as hospitalization rates. And you can see from this graphic that case counts alone significantly underestimate actual infections. Now to hospitalizations. I use hospitalization rates to understand the severity of illness and the burden on our healthcare system. Let's connect hospitalizations and wastewater. If a lot of people are infected, but fewer are landing in the hospital, that's important because it tells us the average severity of disease seems to be getting milder. Today, there are about 10 people in the hospital for COVID in Marin. It's important to understand why that is. Why might it be that despite a lot of transmission, we would estimate over 1,000 active cases currently based on wastewater, that there are few hospitalizations? The short answer is immunity. And in Marin, that's mostly vaccine-acquired immunity. We know the strains circulating now can evade immunity against infection, including the XBB 1.5 strain that will probably be the dominant strain here by the end of the month. So we might expect ongoing high wastewater levels. But because so many of us are vaccinated, and because the vaccine protects us against severe illness, we know we can tolerate relatively high levels of circulating virus without seeing a lot of hospitalizations. We know that also when we look at who's ending up in the hospital, it's mostly those who are not up to date in Marin. Those we have seen who have not received the bivalent booster are about twice as likely to be hospitalized compared to those who have gotten the booster. If all of us were up to date, we'd have far fewer hospitalizations. So what does this mean? First is that our wastewater is telling us the virus is actively circulating. We should all expect to be exposed, especially as we expect the arrival of a new, even more contagious variant in the XBB 1.5 strain. Second, our hospitalization rates are telling us that we are, as a community, relatively well protected against severe illness. Third, that protection is due to high vaccination rates, and we see that people who are not up to date with their bivalent booster remain at risk. As the pandemic evolves, so do the tools used to monitor progress. When we use the right tools, like wastewater, we see more clearly how the virus is behaving and how it changes. One thing that has not changed, however, is that our immunity, gained through vaccination, is the single most reliable form of protection we can carry into 2023. Thank you for doing your part.